life is change. I mean, if all things stayed the same, well, actually, they can't stay the same. We get older, our circumstances change as the nature or the weather brings disruptions of some sort that we need to deal with. And so change is really about living. And I had the opportunity 20 years ago to have this experience with what I now call emergent change practices, which enabled groups of any size, basically whatever the nature of the system is, to come together and grapple with, deal with complex, important, often conflicted issues, and find their way through, find their answers together. And as a result of my curiosity about why did these processes work, how do they work, I ended up pulling together a collection in the late 90s called the Change Handbook that became something of a Bible of the field. And I did it with a partner, and then we asked a third person to join us. So in 2007, we released a second edition of the Change Handbook.
I think it's interesting that if change is so natural in our life, why are we from time to time surprised that we have to face changes? Is it because change itself is speeding up, or the world is speeding up, and we have to adapt more and more rapidly?
I certainly think the pace of change and the scale of change are both increasing. I mean, we are far more global than we used to be, more connected than we used to be. So it makes the complexity of change greater. I think the reason that change is often very hard for us is that it's very emotional. With change, the implications are that there are things that we have been doing or that we care about, or people that we're connected with. Things end. There are aspects of change that are about death as well as rebirth. And anytime we deal with the emotional, particularly I think in Western cultures, we have been really trained to focus on the rational. And for change to be successful, it requires us working both with the rational and with the emotional. And in truth, our physical selves and our spiritual selves as well.
The fact that OD professionals from all over the world are here and they are so interested in this topic is that is it one of their main task or responsibility to guide it through society and people?
Yes. And I think what is happening today, and I think some of this was very clear in the opening plenary, that the strategies and approaches to change, which the term change management is often used to describe the work that people in organizational development do. And it's actually an illusion. We cannot manage change. Because change is something that naturally happens. But what we can do is work with it. And as a result, the kinds of practices and methodologies and skills that OD professionals have been using for at least a generation, which are generally more I want to say linear, but they're more directive in their approaches. They're planned out. Let's do this step and then this step and then this step. And when the conditions in which we're working are relatively predictable, we can be successful, particularly when the solutions are technical in nature. And we're now at a time where there's so much crisis, uncertainty, upheaval, unprecedented situations going on, that those kinds of strategies, if we do step 1, 2, 3, are no longer serving us very well.
So how is it possible to be successful and help successfully or consult successfully in such situations?
I think that's a question a lot of people at this conferences are asking themselves and asking each other. And it's actually part of the reason that I'm excited about the timing of the book coming out, because this notion of engaging with emergence is fundamentally about an answer to that question. One of no doubt many answers, but because emergence, the term comes out of the sciences, out of the complexity, chaos, self-organizing, the new sciences. And a short definition of it is order arising out of chaos. And so when we're dealing with conditions where the answers aren't necessarily predictable, where change implies we're going to be facing the unknown, learning how not to try and impose change, but to work with the forces that are present is I think where the role of the OT profession is going. And so, for example, I mentioned this notion of disruption as the entry point into change. So if we know that, we can take actions that better prepare ourselves and the groups that we work with to enter into the kind of spaces of not knowing, so that we can discover together what can make a useful difference. One of the gifts of open space that I think is open space is the most distinct example of is the notion that we can and do self-organize. And in fact, all of our social behavior is self-organizing. And what open space enables us to do is get more conscious and deliberate about the way we create the conditions in which self-organization is most likely and most effectively going to take place. So that would be the first gift I would mention of open space. The second is from an OD professional perspective, the role of the facilitator. In an open space, it's actually quite a different frame of reference. Harrison Owen, who created open space technology, talks about the role of, as a matter of fact, we actually don't even use the word facilitator, because there's an implication in it of being outside, separate from the system. And in truth, because we're all self-organizing, while the person who opens the space, or an open space practitioner, plays a special sort of role in the system, we're still touched by what's going on. We are still of the system and affected by it and affecting it. But that role, as Harrison has characterized it, is to be totally present and absolutely invisible. Mm-hmm. So the work of an open space practitioner, because the process itself is very minimalist. Basically, behind the scenes, the preparation work includes an awful lot of getting clear about what our intention is. What is an organizing question or theme? Who needs to be in the room, given that? So that when people show up, the open space practitioner takes about 20 minutes to explain the mechanics, which is basically about inviting people to take responsibility for what they love and take a piece of paper and write a topic or a theme, sign their name, announce it to a group, and take it over to a blank wall that has times and spaces available, and to choose a time and a space to have the meeting that they want to have, the session they want to have on their topic. And so by the end of about an hour, a group as small as 5 and as large as 2,000 can have themselves an organized agenda that is based in what people in the room are passionate about doing. And so the role of the open space practitioner is to handle that 20 minutes and essentially to create a space that is welcoming to all people and all ideas, that so that they can show up. And very often the unspoken issues that are present but nobody brings up come up. And they come up in a way that, while there may be conflict or loud voices, that people stick with it. And they stick with it because the conflict happens because people really care. And when they come together around that caring, and tempers may spark, they stay with it because they do care about it. And very often that's where the breakthroughs happen.